Optoelectronics manufacturer Armytek has released a new light. Armytek has not only cornered the market on high-tech, tough lights, but also on cool names like the Grizzly, the Wizard, the Barracuda, and the Viking. Continuing in that tradition of naming lights after badass things, they have named their new headlamp the Tiara. Alright, so you're going to ask, if all those things are capable of casting 6 spells, ripping human flesh to shreds, or pillaging new and beautiful lands, how can a tiny crown with jewels sound intimidating? Maybe someone at Armytek had just watched Carrie? What if we pair it next to some tough-looking things like a pair of Norwegian welted hiking boots, or a big cookery machete? Alright, that's better. Anyway, Armytek has quite a few different choices in the Tiara line, under 2 main classifications. You know, just to make things confusing. This review pertains to the Armytek Tiara A1 Pro Warm only. And explaining all the differences between the other lights wouldn't be worth doing without having the other models on hand. So just visit Armytek's website for all the details. Plus, I'm sure there's someone on YouTube who has bought them all, so just watch that instead. Okay, so what are the basic light specs? The A1 Pro Warm White uses a warm tinted Cree XML2 emitter mounted behind a light scattering glass TIR optic. The TIR optic minimizes the ringing and throw associated with the standard flashlight beam pattern, and is best suited for campsite duties, hiking, electronics repair, or organizing your record collection at 3 a.m. because you're still drunk. The Tiara is covered in a tactile, hard anodization which has a matte finish and provides plenty of grip even when the light is wet or when you have extra gross, sweaty palms. The Tiara A1 Pro also has an easily removable tail cap magnet that adds to its appeal for people who like sticking lights to ferrous surfaces, or an even more specific group of people who enjoy walking around bragging about the fact that their headlamp has a magnet in it. Removing the magnet in the tail cap is a snap. Just take off the plastic cover with a flathead screwdriver or a coin, and then replace it. Since this magnet chamber is isolated from the main light, there's no chance of any water leaking into the light this way, at all whatsoever. Alright, so what comes in the sexy brown, plain, rectangular cardboard box? The light, a headband, a clip, some spare O-rings, and a manual. Fans of a lot of extra plastics and full-colored words and pictures on their packaging that they immediately throw away are going to be disappointed. Anyway, the Armytek Tiara is a lot like its bigger, more magical counterpart, the Wizard, in looks and in operation. It too employs an electronic switch that requires a little more force than the average electronic switch to press, which is fine because electronic switches can inadvertently be turned on when carried in your pocket or placed in your bag. Since electronic switches require a minuscule amount of power to operate, even when off, Armytek reminds you lock out the light by giving the tail cap a slight turn if you plan on not using it for prolonged periods, like, months or weeks. But since it's such a small amount of juice, it literally takes months and months and even years to drain, even if you don't lock it out. Just in case you're a bonehead or hate following instructions. The Tiara can accept a few kinds of batteries, including AA rechargeables, lithium primaries, alkalines, or even a 3.7 volt 14500 lithium ion battery. The 14500 will give you longer run times, brighter modes, and better regulation over alkaline batteries. But if you don't want to invest in a new battery charger or think lithium ions are just not for you, then a AA Eneloop rechargeable is also an excellent way to power the light. Armytek also says to achieve optimum results with a AA battery, to use an Eneloop. Okay, so how about the user interface? Armytek packs its lights with a lot of niche features like voltage indicators, tons of modes, and a few different strobes. I'll go over the basics here, but it's definitely recommended you read the manual to learn how to activate the extra features, because I'm going to forget something. First, Armytek recommends that you tell the Tiara what basic type of battery you're using before you use it. They mainly recommend this if you plan on taking advantage of the voltage indicator. So to do this, you'll need to put in a battery, press and hold the button, let it go through all the modes, and as soon as it turns off, release the button and again click it rapidly. This makes the light blink. At this point, you can give it a single click for a AA battery or a double click for a 14500 battery. That's it. The only time you should have to do this again is when you have to switch between the two main types of batteries. The only problem is that I could not get it to accurately display the remaining voltage, so this was a big waste of my time. I'll go into the way to activate the voltage indicator later on in the video. Okay, so how does the user interface work? The Tiara has 6 modes broken into 3 groups. You have the Firefly group, the main mode group, and the maximum, which only has 1, so I guess it's not really a group. To access the Firefly modes, just press and hold the button from off. It starts out in Firefly 1 and then goes to Firefly 2 if you continue to hold it. Release the button when you get to the mode you want. If you were to continue to hold the button, it would enter the main mode grouping after Firefly 2, which contains the 3 main modes. You can release the button at any time once you get to the mode you like. You don't have to stop at Firefly, or main, or maximum. It will remember the last mode you were in no matter what the grouping when you turn it back on. In order to access the maximum, there are 2 ways to do it. First, you can press and hold the button from off and count the modes until you get to 6. Or the second way to do it is just to double click while in any of the main modes while the light is on to access it directly. If you were to double click it while in any of the Firefly modes, you would only enter the lowest main mode grouping. Maximum mode is remembered in mode memory if you were to turn the light off while in it. You'll definitely need to play around with it a bit to understand exactly how to get to each mode depending on what mode you're currently in or what grouping you're currently in. Or you could just press and hold it from off and then wait till you get to the mode you want and just call it a day, which is what I normally do. Okay, so let's see if we can make this video a bit more boring by explaining how to use the strobe modes and battery indicator modes. Still here? Good. Okay, so turn the light on. From any mode, click the switch rapidly 4 times. This enters the strobe battery indicator mode grouping. Within this grouping, you'll get slow strobe, freak out strobe, and battery indicator. To switch between these 3 modes, press and hold the button. Battery indicator is a little confusing because at first it looks like it's just on, but then it blinks 3 or 4 times depending on the voltage of the battery, or 1 I guess if you're using an alkaline, and then it stops for half a second and then it blinks the rest of the point. So it's like 3.7 would be 1, 2, 3, pause, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And it just keeps doing that until you turn it off. To get out of the strobe groupings at any time, just click the button to turn it off. When you turn it back on, you'll be out of strobe mode. Also, anytime you access strobe mode again, the last strobe or battery indicator mode you used will be saved, but only if you intentionally enter strobe mode. Got it? Jesus. Anyway, how does Armytek rate the output modes for the Tiara Pro Warm A1? For AA batteries, Armytek requires you to use end-loop rechargeables to achieve their spec runtimes and light output levels, just like I said earlier. Armytek only specifies the light output is different for the maximum mode if you use a different kind of battery. So for this, I'll group each mode by battery type and set the camera to manual to see if there's any differences between the 2 battery types when in each mode. Remember, the lumen outputs are manufacturer specs. Firefly 1 outputs 0.1 lumen for a whopping 90 days. It's the lowest moonlight mode I've seen in a standard flashlight other than the JetBeam RRT01. Firefly 2 outputs 2 lumens for 200 hours. Main 1 is 11 lumens for 25 hours. Main 2 is 80 lumens for 3 hours. Main 3 is 230 lumens for 1 hour and 10 minutes. And maximum is 515 lumens for 30 minutes on an N loop, or 890 lumens while using a 14500 battery. Since my camera had a hard time keeping up with the extreme brightness range of the Tiara when including the moonlight modes, here are the main modes and maximum grouped by battery type and then by mode. I changed up the camera settings a little bit this time so you can appreciate the differences better. Lastly, here's an underexposed comparison of the maximum mode by battery type so you can better appreciate the brightness difference. This test proves that the Tiara is quite a bit brighter when using 14500 batteries. While I don't have an integrating sphere to measure the light output, I can compare it to other similar sized lights to give you a good idea of how it outputs compared to those lights. And we'll just make this simple and set the Tiara to main 3 and maximum and compare the highest output levels of those other lights. Now, while I can't verify the lumen output levels, I can verify some of the runtimes. I'm only going to do a few tests because it would literally take over 6 months to test and verify each mode. And by that time, Armytek will have released a new and better light, and no one will care about this review anymore. I made my runtime tests split screen so you can see how each battery behaves in relation to one another. The high and main level 3 tests were shot on a borrowed camera I can't afford with manual settings, which can record the entire runtime without stopping. First up is maximum mode, with a 14500 battery, an Eneloop battery, and an alkaline battery. In this test, the alkaline wins overall runtime, but isn't as bright as the 14500 and tapers off in brightness much quicker than both the 14500 and the Eneloop. Next up is main 3 with a 14500 battery, an Eneloop, and an alkaline battery. The 14500 is a clear winner this time, with the Eneloop in second and the alkaline in a distant third. You can see the behavior of the alkaline again is to taper off in brightness more dramatically throughout the runtime than the other 2 batteries. Next up is main 2 with a 14500 and an Eneloop battery. This test was a time lapse, unlike the other video runtime tests earlier, because it just took too long to record. The 14500 is the clear winner here. So the lesson throughout all this is just to use 14500 batteries if you want the best performance out of the light. Eneloops aren't bad either, but I'd stay away from alkalines unless you're in a pinch. Okay, how about a few final thoughts? So the Armytek Tiara is a pretty advanced headlamp with a somewhat technical user interface. It is probably best suited for someone without anger issues who is willing to sit down for a few minutes and read the manual and play with the modes. Build quality is second to none. You won't find a much tougher headlamp. All the modes are well regulated and I can't detect PWM or pulse width modulation on any of them, so the beam is nice and flicker free. The Firefly mode, again, is about as low as any other light I've used except for the JetBeam RRT01. The warm tint is very nice and feels similar to old incandescent flashlights without being overly orange. It's waterproof to IPX8 standards, so it'll survive falling into a stream or pond, but probably not a vat of acid. It also has double O-rings to keep the water out. It has anodized tail cap threads, which not only allow voltage lockout, but reduce the amount of wear on the threads when you change the battery. Out of the 5 headlamps I own, this is tied for my favorite with the Armytek Wizard. But the Wizard offers longer run times and output levels because it uses a much larger battery. Well, duh. Anyway, thanks for watching.